Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me today is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to the Hidden Haven for Stories.
Nice. Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for that.
Well, why don't we get right into the stories while I enjoy my morning caparoo?
Oh, what are you enjoying this morning? We forgot to talk about this.
Yeah. What am I enjoying? I'm enjoying some watermelon mint.
Tea.
Tea.
Sounds refreshing for what I hear is going to be a long winter. Now on for our stories. Any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. Am I the a-hole for calling my friend irresponsible for what she did while babysitting my child? I, female 29, have a phobia of horses. I put phobia in quotation marks because phobias are irrational fears, and I don't think my fear is irrational, but everyone else in my life keeps calling it a phobia. I do like animals, but horses are just not it for me. I don't like being around them, and I'd have no interest in petting them or riding them. When I was around 8 years old, a horse attacked me unprovoked and nearly killed me, and I was hospitalized. My best friend Eliza, female 29, is the opposite to me. When we were in high school, she was your stereotypical horse girl. She owns some horses of her own now and is still obsessed with horses. I don't interact with Eliza's horses and never have. I respect that we can have our own interests, and Eliza and I have different things to talk about. I have a daughter, Tanya, female 4, and Eliza occasionally kindly volunteers to babysit for me. Eliza has her own daughter of similar age, and they play together nicely. Last week, I asked Eliza to babysit for me so me and my partner could go to my cousin's child-free wedding, and she agreed. I paid Eliza to babysit and gave her some extra money to get herself and the girls takeout. Well, when after I picked Tanya up and was driving home, Tanya was telling me about how she sat on a horsey. At first, I thought Tanya was talking about a toy rocking horse, but then she told me about how she fed the horsey some apples. When I got home, I called Eliza and asked if she had my daughter interact with her horses. At first, Eliza denied everything and said she didn't know what I was talking about. But when I said Tanya told me about it, Eliza admitted that she held Tanya while she sat on one of her horses and let Tanya help her feed one of her horses. Eliza went on and on about how safe it is and that she was in complete control of the situation, that the horse was standing completely still when she held Tanya on the horse's back. I told Eliza that what she did was irresponsible and that doing it behind my back was unacceptable. I was so angry and uncomfortable. She said that I'm overreacting because of my phobia and said that Tanya was completely safe and went on about how well trained her horses are and how she knows so much about horses. I said I didn't care and that she should think about what she did. My family thinks I overreacted and that I should apologize to Eliza, that I'm projecting my phobia onto my daughter. Am I the a-hole? Additional information: Eliza never wears a helmet when riding her horses, so I highly doubt that she put one on my daughter. I don't think she even owns any helmets. I would have been okay with Tanya feeding/petting the horses, but Eliza putting her on a horse's back made me very uncomfortable. Additionally, Eliza keeps her horses in a field that's around an hour drive from her actual home, so I didn't think she'd take my daughter there. Am I the a-hole?
All right, so clarification. The OP is asking if she is the a-hole because she's upset with her friend. And she's upset with her friend because the friend went beyond her and introduced her daughter to horses and let the daughter get on the back of a horse.
Correct.
Okay.
And apparently, from what it said in the post, potentially with no helmet. Because apparently our poster knows that her friend rides her horses without helmets.
Okay. And her friend knew how much of a phobia the OP already had about horses due to something that happened when she was a kid.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like they've been friends since they were kids.
Okay.
And everybody calls her phobia of horses, from what it sounds like, irrational.
Okay. But I guess it really doesn't matter what other people think about your phobia. It's your phobia.
Correct.
Regardless of it being rational or irrational. It's the responsibility of the friend now because she would have known that her friend, the OP, had this phobia, which is why she probably didn't tell her friend that she was taking her daughter to go see her horses an hour away from her friend's house.
Oh, yes, definitely. So she intentionally did this because the
Yeah,
horses aren't just
definitely
outside the door.
Yeah, no, this wasn't an accident. And I guess I'll sum it up like this. The OP is definitely not the a-hole. She has every right to be upset about what her friend did with her child who is 4.
Yes,
right?
very young.
Like, I think if anything, everyone can agree that if someone's going to do something with your child, regardless of what it is, there should be your knowledge of it happening as the parent. So,
And all of Reddit does agree. They say that our poster is not the a-hole.
okay.
In fact, they say her feelings aren't unfounded. Horses are animals and they get spooked easily.
Sure.
And a lot of accidents have happened with horses. Had anything happened to her daughter while she wasn't around simply because her friend thinks that her fears are irrational due to her experiences? Can you imagine
explaining that.
the huge fallout? I mean, some posters actually say that because a cat launched itself at a horse, the horse got spooked and the rider got injured because of it.
A lot of bad injuries can happen from horses.
And these animals, they could be the sweetest and kindest, but even the most docile can be the most dangerous just because of the sheer like muscle and weight behind these animals. So, as I've said, all of Reddit is behind the poster saying that this is her daughter. It should have been asked from the get-go, talked about.
Sure.
And clearly, the poster said that it was different had she just fed the horse. Instead, she was on the horse. So now, let's go ahead and go on to our next story, which involves a business. Am I the a-hole for not getting up from a massage chair when someone wanted to use it? I am currently 8 months pregnant, and because of that, I often get quite tired when I stand or walk for long periods of time. Yesterday afternoon, I was craving ice cream, so I drove to a nearby shopping center to visit my favorite ice cream shop. Unfortunately, the place was quite crowded, and all of the tables surrounding the shop, as well as some nearby sofas, were taken. Because of that, after getting my ice cream, I decided to sit on one of 2 massage chairs that was close and eat it there. Once I started eating the snack, I got approached by a couple that was in their late teens or perhaps early 20s. They asked me to get off the chair since I wasn't getting a massage, and they wanted to receive such a service together, which I refused to do. In return, I offered to leave once I finished eating, or if they found me a different place to sit, since I could not stand for more than a few minutes at a time, and had a relatively large dessert that I wanted to finish. Upon hearing that, the girl was not happy. She told me to stop acting as if I was ill, that just because I was pregnant, the world did not revolve around me, and because I was not paying for a massage, I had no right to sit on the chair. She then asked her partner to get a security guard, and a few moments later, he came with such an employee. The guard took my side and asked the couple to either take turns using the second massage chair or wait for me to finish eating, which upset the girl quite a bit. She accused me of being selfish and preventing the owner of the chairs from earning money and left with her partner. Upon telling the story to my younger sister, she told me I should have went to the ice cream stand when the shopping center was less crowded if I wasn't able to eat while standing. However, my older sister believes that I had every right to sit on the massage chair if all the other spots were taken, and the couple was being unreasonable because of that. I'm not sure if I am the a-hole in this situation. Am I the a-hole?
All right. This one's a really cool story, I think, because even within the OP's family, there's, contrasting ideas of what that was. Either she was the a-hole or not. I guess it's in all how you look at this situation. So for the clarification part, she goes to the mall. I think it doesn't really matter what time you go, because how are you supposed to know peak hours of a mall on a certain day? I mean, you guess you could do the research.
If you're talking about a weekend in the afternoon, then you know that
does that really affect whether or not she should go, I feel? So, I don't know. Maybe that one's a little weird. But I understand for her that she's pregnant, so she's sitting down, she's eating her ice cream.
Correct, her dessert.
Well, I guess, darn, dude, this one's a difficult one. All right. Everything is saying that, I guess, if I was in that situation, I definitely would have been a little more understanding towards the OP, because, I mean, if we really wanted that massage, we could have just waited and then gotten it together. I don't know. Okay, so she's definitely not the a-hole. Yeah, and it's because she's pregnant. I don't know.
Well, you're definitely a gentleman, Timstradamus. However, Reddit says she actually is the a-hole.
Okay.
In fact, she actually gives a little update in her post where she says this really blew up. And now that I think about this situation, I can see that I am indeed wrong. Next time a similar situation happens, I will order the ice cream in an edible bowl and eat it in my car instead of taking up sitting spots that are owned by other businesses. Now, there's actually one commenter that explained this quite well.
Okay.
And it is, if you go to, let's say, a fast food joint, and you get your burger there, and there's 2 fast food joints that are next to each other, and the place that you got a burger at has no spots for you to sit and enjoy your meal. So you go next door because they have spots open. But then it starts filling up because you brought your business to another business and took up spots. Does that make it right for you to do that? Essentially, she was doing that with her dessert. She took her dessert,
I get it.
and that chair is a business.
Okay.
So that she is taking away from that business.
Okay, I can understand like that. I think it's just the power of the pregnancy. That's
like I said, you're a gentleman.
You take the chair. but I understand like everyone's stance on it. That does make sense to me.
She's pregnant.
Why that? But that's how I would act. Is like, we can just wait a second, let her enjoy it, I guess, and come back and snoop around the corner. Okay, she's gone. Let's go.
Now on to our next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my mother-in-law the wrong address so she could no longer send her granddaughter gifts? I, 42 male, have been married to my wife, 39 female, for 15 years. We have a wonderful 14-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. My wife's mother has some views that I don't agree with. 2 years ago, for our daughter's 12th birthday, she sent her a book about crash dieting that promised something like 10 pounds of weight loss in 3 days. Our daughter was devastated because the underlying message was clear as day. It was a month until she started eating a whole plate of food for dinner again. Our daughter is a healthy girl. She is highly active, studious, and most importantly, happy. Her grandmother believes that she's not reaching her quote-unquote full potential, whatever that means, and thinks that she'll be on the front covers of magazines if she can just shed some weight. Since she made these views clear to me, I have made it my mission to block any unsupervised contact, and this includes gifts. About a month ago, with my daughter's upcoming 14th birthday, Grandma texted me asking for our new address. Normally, she would ask my wife, but since she didn't answer within 10 minutes, she texted me instead. My wife would have given her our real address, but I was able to respond first with a fake one and tell my wife no response was necessary. I couldn't guarantee that I'd be home to intercept any gifts, and my daughter would open something addressed to her. I gave her some numbers / a street somewhere that I wasn't even sure existed. A couple weeks later, after my daughter's birthday, I realized that it did not, in fact, exist, as her package was returned to her. Both she and my wife were furious, and my wife amended the address I gave her before. Grandma insisted it was a completely innocent package. Well, the day it was scheduled for delivery, I decided to work from home. When it arrived, I opened it up and found a baton-twirling uniform, my daughter's hobby. Sound innocent enough? It was at least 2 sizes too small. I sat my wife down with the stupid thing in front of us and said it was clearly intentional, which my wife refuses to acknowledge. Now she and her mother are even madder at me for throwing the uniform into the neighbor's garbage with the neighbor's permission. Did I handle this correctly?
Shoogie doogie. So I don't think I need any clarification on this. I'm gonna say that the OP is the father, right?
Correct.
The OP is definitely not the a-hole. Good for you for protecting your daughter from what it sounds like is an archaic viewpoint from your mother-in-law. The one thing I took away from the story was that your daughter is happy, and in today's world, that's a blessing in and of itself to have someone in their early years be happy.
Oh,
You
definitely.
hear so many stories now about how many kids are depressed. So if she's happy, keep it that way. The grandmother is I'm shocked that the mother has sided with the grandmother in this case. Shame on the mom. But yeah, you keep being a good dad, because it sounds like they have really weird. She said the daughter. He said the daughter is studious, so she's doing great.
She
in
said
school,
he
is what
also
it
says
sounds
that
like.
she's healthy and active.
So she's clicking all the boxes.
But
Just
apparently hasn't hit her grandmother's approval to be
all because of
10 pounds lighter for the camera, apparently.
a look, right? There's a value in your weight, so that's terrible. Yeah, no, he's definitely not the a-hole. That family needs to go Maybe they keep dodging and telling her wrong addresses forever. There's no reason to give that old lady anything.
Well, all of Reddit agrees. They think the father is not the a-hole. In fact, and just as you stated, everyone is surprised that the mother hasn't done anything and instead sides with the grandmother. Unfortunately, it just sounds like there's a lot of family issues that they need to get resolved together because impacting the self-esteem of a growing child can hurt irreparably.
Definitely.
So let's go from one family drama and let's see how a mother does with this next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting an elderly woman have my son's seat on the bus? All right, so my son's 17, has weekly therapy appointments that I take him to. Unfortunately, my husband let our daughter borrow his car and then had an emergency at work, so he had to use my car, so my son and I had to take the bus. It wasn't ideal, but I'd rather the bus than miss an appointment. While it isn't my place to share where he goes to therapy, I will say that he will often forget to eat. I usually make sure he's fed, but due to the mess in the morning, it slipped my mind. The bus wasn't too crowded, but all the seats were taken. My son wasn't doing too well, and I could tell he was feeling dizzy from hunger and the bus. So the second someone got off their seat, I sat him down. I then tried to find a chocolate bar I had in my bag. While this was happening, I noticed an elderly lady and her adult daughter standing beside us. I didn't pay much attention until the daughter tapped me on the shoulder. She asked if my son could move so that her elderly mother could have a seat. I felt really bad. I really did. But my son was not doing great and standing would make it harder. I had found the chocolate and he was eating it slowly, but if he stood up right then, I can assure you he would have fainted. I apologized to her and explained that my son wasn't feeling well. She rolled her eyes at me and said that she saw him standing earlier and that he's a young, healthy teenage boy, he'll be fine. I apologized once again and told her that he wasn't feeling well and that if he was, then he himself would have offered a seat. The daughter told me to look at her mother, and I admit the poor woman looked really tired, but I couldn't. My son had started to lean against me, so I told the woman one last time that I was sorry and to ask someone else. I then heard them whispering and calling me an entitled bitch. And when we got off the bus, a woman that got off with us said that the teenage boy can handle standing more than an elderly woman can, and that she hopes someone treats me like that when I'm her age. My son was so out of it, I don't even think he noticed or cared, but I can't get this off my mind. Am I the a-hole? A totally unrelated woman thought I was along with the two. I wasn't sitting down, and I did not have a seat.
All right, so I don't really need any clarification on this story. But I guess I'm going to go ahead and lean into the OP is not the a-hole in my viewpoint, and I'll define it as such. You don't owe a seat to anyone. There's a difference between manners, okay, and owing someone something. Does she already explain that the son was going through some stuff at this point?
Correct.
Was almost at a fainting spell.
Yes.
She was trying to, I guess, bring up his blood sugar. I don't know. She knew that he needed to sit at that point. Yeah, I don't know if she's the a-hole. Maybe manners are a little bit in there, but who's to say whether or not that kid was in shape to stand up or not? I don't think that's up to other people to make that decision because they don't know what you're going through. They don't know that the kid looks like he's about to faint, right? To them, he looks like a 17-year-old healthy young man.
Well, all of Reddit also says that she is not the a-hole. They say that a lot of people, yeah, I bet you they probably make up some excuses to keep a seat. But clearly the mother was trying not to take up a seat herself, was only trying to watch out for her son, had told them that he wasn't feeling well, and they should have just respected it at that point and just dropped it. They could have asked anybody else on the bus for a seat, and they were trying to pinpoint someone that they thought was young and didn't have a reason, and that's a bit manipulative.
I agree with that.
So, let us go ahead and see what a relationship is like with a family in this next story. Would I be the a-hole if I ask my husband to not bring my stepdaughter over? Throwaway for privacy. So my husband has a daughter, Marie, 11, with his ex. Marie, unfortunately, was born with, for lack of better words, severe mental disabilities. The way our custody arrangement is set is that 1 year Marie lives with us and 1 year with her mother. She is supposed to come here next week. This is where I ran into a problem. My husband and I have a son, Adam, 11 months. First of all, my husband has to go to work, and it would be difficult for me to manage both Marie and Adam, especially him, at the same time. The second problem is that Adam is going through a fussy phase right now and ends up screaming for a long time. Marie has sensory overloads when there is a loud noise, so it would be difficult to deal with it. A, my son won't stop screaming, and B, making him stop would take at least 10 minutes, all the while Marie would be suffering. There are other issues, but these are the two main ones. I talked to a friend about it, and she says it would be cruel for me to ask that. So I wanted to ask, would I be the a-hole?
Okay, for clarification, she's asking if what she's about to ask is wrong or right.
Correct.
Okay. I guess it'll depend on how you go about asking that question. I don't think you're in the wrong for trying to make a difficult situation easier. Right? So is she asking not to take the kid for an entire year?
Correct.
Okay, so they're going to pass on the upcoming year to make
Correct.
it easier because they just had this kid the baby who's 11 months old. Honestly, I don't think that she would be the a-hole in this situation for having asked a hard situation easier. See, I think I would have understood it better if the daughter in this situation was a little younger, because I guess it's a little less impactful, but like 11 and you're getting into the tween teen years type situation. So I don't know. I still think I'm going to lean on, depending on how she asks, I'm sure that all parties can be a little understanding of, because it sounds like the girl would be in kind of a rough spot just being at the home with the kid if the kid's going to be very loud all the time, right? Because it sounds like that's what the OP is saying, is the kid cries a lot and it's not good for the daughter.
Correct.
So I don't know. I'm going to lean back towards what I said, is she's not going to be a-hole. It just depends on how you go about asking.
So all of Reddit says that she's the a-hole.
Wow.
And the reason being is, one, there was a lot of people that were asking when it was that she decided to marry this husband.
Okay.
Because if she came down 5 years down the road, how is it that the daughter was being watched over while her husband had been working then? The second, and one poster put it this way: if you're not willing to care for a mentally disabled child, that's your right. But don't go marry a man that has a disabled child and expect him to choose you.
Okay. I guess I was only looking at it from, if the daughter was going to have issues just because of the amount of noise that was coming from the baby, then maybe she's on doing the right thing for the kid. But I can also understand that if you're right, if you do get in a relationship with someone who has a disabled child, you should be understanding that regardless of the situation, you're going to make it work.
Correct.
So again, I was only looking at it from like, hey, she's looking out for the kid, but I can also understand how that might almost just be a manipulative way to look at things. Like, hey, I don't want to deal with your kid anymore. I've got mine.
Yes.
So
another thing that a lot of people also put in the forefront is taking care of a child that has disabilities is taxing on even just two parents.
I bet.
But that by having the alternating years, this takes on that pressure of dealing with everything that you need to do to take care of a child with disabilities, and kind of evens out so that one parent can actually be allowed to rejuvenate, essentially.
Okay.
By doing this, by having her potentially skip an entire year, you're asking that mother to not have any downtime, which is unfair.
Sure. The daughter also gets to miss her father.
Yes.
That's why I asked the age. I'm like, 11, that's pretty bad. I don't know if you want to start putting years like that between, visit.
Wow.
But I understand what Reddit's saying.
Let's go ahead and see how our next relationship is faring in this story. Am I the a-hole for leaving a vacation I planned for my girlfriend after her friends came along?
Yes.
My girlfriend, Sarah, 29, and I, male 28, have been dating for 5 years, and I wanted to go on a vacation with her to celebrate. I planned the trip for several months. Of course, I shared my plans with her and decided on skiing/snowboarding/other winter activities in Colorado. The activities seemed perfect, and I was looking forward to this for months because I wanted to propose to her at the end of the trip.
Nice.
5 days before the trip, Sarah dropped the ball on me that she invited 2 of her friends to meet her there. I was upset because I wanted to spend one-on-one time with Sarah for our anniversary. I feel like it was plain and clear that this was a trip for just us. Even though I expressed my concerns, Sarah insisted that her friends already made plans to come and won't back out. I decided to accept this because there was no way for me to force her friends to not come. I wish I fought more on this. I figured we could make some changes to our plans, and I would still be able to propose to her privately. Sarah essentially blew me off for her friends, and we didn't get any private time. After 3 days of being in second place, I decided to leave the trip and head home. I told Sarah why I was leaving, and she was upset. She told her friends about my decision, and I was ganged up on. They said we were all having a great time. She thinks I'm being a jerk for making her pick between her friends and me, even though her friends weren't invited in the first place. I never had personal issues with her friends prior to this trip. I never made Sarah pick between me and her friends because everyone needs friends outside of a relationship. I'm at home now and thinking about everything. I have a day to myself before Sarah comes home, so at least I get to relax a bit. Sarah and her friends think I'm overreacting and think I ruined the trip. I think Sarah was disrespectful and rude to me by ruining the purpose of this trip and having her friends gang up on me. Am I the a-hole for leaving a vacation I planned for my girlfriend after her friends came along? Edit. This was a planned anniversary/romantic trip. I was clear that we had plans for just us two. We've been on other anniversary trips together without her friends there. We did discuss marriage beforehand, so it's not like a proposal wouldn't be out of the blue. Minor update. My friends are here at the house and they have been running potential interference just in case her friends try to bombard and harass me. They've been great and I'm so glad to have them. And then minor update too. None of Sarah's friends came by the house or harassed me yesterday/last night, which is good. Sarah hasn't come home yet. I figured out what I want to say and have it written out. Am I the a-hole?
Ooh, that was a lot of updates.
Yes.
Shoogie doogie. I don't believe that the OP is the a-hole. He already made it known that this trip was specifically for them, that he already planned it beforehand, right?
Correct.
And then she invited them afterwards, after the plans were set.
After the plans were set and 5 days before the trip.
Yeah, see, that's an issue. And the fact that your girlfriend couldn't have stepped back and went, well, they've already planned it too, and they're not coming, even though, this was 5 days before the trip. So how much investment did they actually put into this? Right? I think your girlfriend's friends are super selfish in this situation, especially because they probably knew that this was a anniversary trip too. So instead of you got the friends going, hey, I don't know if we should tag along on this one. There's a difference between like just going on trips with friends and your loved one and then an anniversary.
Something that
and
is
they would
special.
know that was an anniversary because they've been together for a minute, right?
5 years?
This isn't a new relationship. I'm definitely going to stick with what I said. I don't think the OP is the a-hole in this situation.
All of Reddit agrees.
Okay.
They say that he's not the a-hole. In fact, there's an update to this whole adventure.
Move over, Newt.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who sent me kind words and encouraging private messages. I decided that I wanted to end this entire relationship. I packed my important belongings, example passport, clothes, and arranged with my best friend to crash at his apartment until I can find my own. Usually when small issues happen in a relationship, it ties into a bigger issue of that relationship. The main reason why I decided to break up is because I realized that her friends will always be closer to her than me. Sarah has favored her friends over me and blown off some of our plans for her friends more than once. I was lying to myself for years because I didn't want to face reality yet. I had hoped she would change, but this trip really opened my eyes that I will always be in third place to her. I expressed my feelings multiple times, and Sarah promised she would change, but she didn't. Sarah came home late yesterday. I said I have a lot to get off my chest, and I wanted to get through my notes before she talks or tries to interrupt me. The first question I asked Sarah was how she thought the trip went. She said we all had fun and it was memorable. I shouldn't have to feel like a third wheel in my own relationship, especially on a trip that I planned. My next question was, why did you invite your friends in the first place? You knew this was an anniversary trip for us. She talked about the trip with her friends since the beginning, and they had never been to Colorado. She thought it would be a good idea to allow them to come just so they could have fun in Colorado with us. I followed up with my lack of knowledge of her friends coming along until days before. It's one thing if they came and did their own activities, but it's another thing that every activity became a group activity. I signed up for a monogamous relationship. not a poly relationship. My last question was, did you know that I was going to propose to you? Sarah said she didn't know at all. The thought never occurred to Sarah that I was going to ask. She claimed that she wouldn't have invited her friends to come along if she knew, but I responded that it would ruin the surprise if I told you. She begged me to stay with her and believes we can work everything out. She didn't want me to throw 5 years away after this one bad trip. I listened to her promises to change for years regarding her friends, but nothing happened. I ultimately left Sarah with this. It's clear that there isn't enough room in your heart for your boyfriend and your friends. As much as I love Sarah, I can't stay in a relationship where I'm not respected enough. I left Sarah in the house by herself and I drove off to my friend's place. I'll figure out how to get my name off the lease and I'll plan to get the rest of my belongings. As for the ring, I will return it this weekend.
Money back. Well, good for him. Yeah, good guy read it.
It's unfortunately a hard thing to admit when some things are wrong in a relationship.
It sounds like it worked out for the best for the both of them. Now she has more time to hang out with her friends.
And maybe next time Sarah will learn this for another relationship.
Yep, gotta make sure your priorities are straight. That's the last one.
I'm glad you have enjoyed our last story of the day.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We will be regularly posting on Tuesdays and Fridays.
And remember, if you post it on the internet, maybe we'll see it. And remember, if you post, maybe we'll see it on the internet.